Hey everyone, it's Tiffany
And Kyle.
and Makayla, and we just finished our part 1 to this series, I guess our Meet Us video, just telling you a little bit of our background and my pregnancy with Makayla. So now we're going to continue on with Makayla's journey through her first part of her life. Basically, everything was going really good. She was starting to develop really well. She was breastfeeding amazingly. She did awesome with that. She was gaining weight well.
She's a normal baby.
Yeah, she was just basically a normal baby. And at 2 months, I noticed that she was starting to get flathead, or plagocephaly, I believe it's called. I talked to our family doctor, and she referred us to a therapy group in, I guess, our major town. And so we started going there to do exercises to fix the flathead. And while we were there, about the first month or so, I remember the physiotherapist saying that she was worried about Makayla's arm movements. So she was going to actually refer us to an occupational therapist because I guess she wasn't really pushing up on her arms or using them at the stage she should have been. We were referred to the occupational therapist, where we were going to do new exercises to help her, I guess, moving along into her, what's it called?
Proper development?
Yeah, into her proper development. So before even we got an appointment with the occupational therapist, I remember Makayla was actually laying on the couch, and she was just being happy as normal and listening to her little toy that we had always played, and she was doing great. And then she was making a certain movement that I knew just something wasn't right. So she was like stiffening her arms and legs, like she was trying to bear down, like she was constipated. And so it went on for a few hours, and we weren't sure what it was. So we actually ended up going to a hospital, and we ended up being there for 10 hours. It kept happening, and I didn't want the doctor to miss what was happening, so I actually ran out and I got the doctor, and she came in and she actually told us that Makayla was having seizures. And at first, I remember thinking, like, what does this mean? Like, why would my child be having seizures? Like, she's perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong. She doesn't need to have seizures. And so we were all shocked at that moment, but all of a sudden we needed to do all sorts of tests, like blood work, and eventually the blood work did come back and there was nothing wrong with her blood work. So the doctor basically sent us home, and they told us that we were referred to a pediatrician about an hour and a half from our house, and that he would be seeing her the next day, right? The next day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We ended up seeing him, and he had seen these seizures many times before, and he actually told us they were called infantile spasms. So I don't even remember like the gist of that appointment, just that he told us that it was infantile spasms, and that basically things could either get better or worse. I guess over the course of about a month, Makayla's seizures did get worse, and I believe it was like May 17th that me and my mom were sitting in my parents' living room, and I was holding Makayla, and her seizures were just minor before that, but at that moment when I was holding her, she actually went into I guess a grand mal seizure, where she did the shaking, and it really scared me and my mom. And so my mom actually grabbed the phone and called 911. The firefighters actually were there within seconds, because the fire hall is just at like the top of our street. So they were there like almost immediately, and by that time though, I had Makayla on the couch on her side, and she was just sleeping because she was so exhausted from the seizure. The paramedics got there with the ambulance, and we went to our local hospital. So when we got there, I referred the doctors to speak with my pediatrician, and my pediatrician actually referred us to go to sick kids immediately. So I think we actually ended up staying the night in hospital at our local hospital, and then the next morning we would be transferred.
Yeah, because I remember getting Tim Hortons or Subway or something because we had no choice but to stay.
Yeah, so we ended up staying that night in our local hospital, and then in the morning we were transferred by ambulance to the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto, Ontario. I was still 17 at this point, and I remember getting to the hospital and Makayla was being hooked up to all these probes on her head, and the technician for which is called the EEG, which does a brainwave scan. I remember her telling me to go downstairs to registration and register Makayla. I just remember feeling like so scared and so alone, and I didn't even know this place because I had never been there. So I ended up finding the elevators, and I looked down the elevators and there was a big huge sign saying registration. So I finally felt like, okay, I'm okay now, I know where to go. So I went down and registered her. When I went upstairs, Makayla was hooked up to the brainwave probes, and they were doing the scan. And I just remember sitting there, and there was these whole bunch of spikes throughout the brainwaves. And I guess now that I know, normally your brainwaves don't have these huge spikes in them. They're just kind of like
a wave?
Yeah, like a wave, like a constant wave. There's not supposed to be any like huge jots or spikes. After that, my parents came down the hallway, and I don't think you even came because you were working, right?
I think I had work.
Yeah. So me and my mom actually stayed in Sick Kids for, I believe, 5 days. On the 21st, which was the Friday, Makayla was scheduled to have an MRI done on her brain. An MRI is a technical, I guess, X-ray where they show each individual layer of the brain. They told me it was going to take about 2 hours for the MRI to be complete because she had to be sedated and things like that. And I remember just pacing back and forth by the door where she was because I knew she had come out. They didn't tell me that, but I knew where she went in and I knew where she was going to come out. So I remember pacing back and forth, and a nurse actually saw my shadow go by the door like probably 50 times, and she comes out and she's like, "Are you looking for someone?" And I said, "Yeah, my daughter Makayla, like she's supposed to be out of an MRI, like it's been way over 2 hours." And she's like, "Oh yes, she's out and she's fine, she's just sleeping." So they actually let us go in at that point, and I started bawling when I saw her because I just hated the thought of her being alone. We ended up getting back up to the room eventually, and later on that afternoon, our new neurologist doctor came in, and they basically told us to sit down, and I knew at that point something was like horribly wrong. This is part 2. I'll have part 1 in the description below if you haven't seen that already. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos. Bye guys.